50 years had passed since the Council rejected humanity. Lisa Morgan stood in the observation deck of Unity Station, watching robot workers build another section of the massive structure. The station was huge now, bigger than any city on Earth. 2 million people lived and worked here, floating in space above their home planet. Lisa was 62 years old. She had been just 12 when the Council locked humanity away. She still remembered that day clearly. She remembered her parents crying as they watched the news. She remembered the riots and the fear. Everyone had thought it was the end of humanity's dreams, but it hadn't been the end. It had been a beginning. "Construction is going faster than we planned," said Peter Grant, Lisa's assistant. He was young, barely 30, born long after the quarantine began. "The new engines we designed are working better than we expected." Lisa nodded but didn't really hear him. She was thinking about the past 50 years, about everything that had changed. The first few years after the rejection had been terrible. Earth's economy nearly collapsed. Space programs shut down because there was no point in reaching for stars they couldn't access. Depression spread across the planet like a disease. People who had dreamed of meeting aliens and exploring the galaxy felt like their future had been stolen. But humans don't stay down for long. Without access to alien technology, humanity had been forced to figure everything out alone, and they had. Scientists worked harder than ever before. Engineers built things the Council said were impossible. Doctors found cures for diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. Fusion power now gave Earth unlimited clean energy. Quantum computers solved problems in seconds that would have taken years before. Medicine had advanced so much that people now lived to be 120 years old on average. Earth's environment, which had been dying before the quarantine, was now healing. And the ships? The ships were humanity's greatest achievement. "The Columbus finished testing her new engines," Peter said, pulling Lisa back to the present. "Captain Rodriguez says she can reach 80% of light speed." "Only inside our solar system," Lisa reminded him. "The moment we cross the boundary, the Council will know. Their sensors watch for any human ship trying to leave." "Does it matter anymore?" Peter asked. "Do we even care what they think?" Lisa turned to look at her young assistant. "That's the big question, isn't it? We've spent 50 years locked in this cage. We've built amazing things. We've solved problems they said we couldn't solve. We did it all alone with no help from anyone." "Maybe we're better off alone," Peter said. "Nobody is better off alone," Lisa replied quietly. "It doesn't matter how advanced you get. Isolation makes you stagnant. We're missing ideas and perspectives we can't even imagine. There are problems we could solve if we could work with species that think differently than we do." Her tablet made a sound. A message from Earth Central Command marked urgent. "Something's happened," Lisa said, reading quickly. "A Council ship just crossed into our solar system." Peter's eyes went wide. "That's impossible. They're the ones who created the quarantine. They don't break their own rules. They just did." Lisa's expression hardened. Something is very wrong. The Council ship was damaged badly. Its hull showed scars from powerful weapons, metal melted and twisted by intense heat. When human ships approached, ready for a fight, they received a distress call instead of an attack. The ship's captain was named Crystalline 7. He was a Vex, one of those crystal beings that Lisa had seen in old videos from the Council chamber. His body flickered with strange colors that seemed random and chaotic. "Please," his message said through the translator. "We need help. We need a safe place. They're coming." Lisa watched the recording from Unity Station's command center. She was surrounded by military officers and scientists, all of them confused. "Who's coming?" she asked, even though she knew the alien couldn't hear her recording. They brought Crystalline 7 aboard Unity Station. He was weak, his crystal body dim and flickering. When he could finally speak clearly, his words shocked everyone. "Unknown enemies," he said. "We call them the Devourers. They appeared in Council space 6 months ago. They don't talk. They don't negotiate. They just attack and destroy. They've destroyed 12 of our colony worlds already. Billions dead. Our fleets can't stop them." The command center went completely silent. "Why come here?" Lisa asked coldly. "You locked us away because you said we were too dangerous to be around." Crystalline 7's crystal body pulsed with sad colors. "Because you're warriors. The Council has lived in peace for thousands of years. We forgot how to fight. We forgot how to think like people in a war. But humans? You never forgot, even locked away, even with no enemy to fight. Look what you built. He gestured weakly at the displays showing Unity Station and the human fleet. Ships designed for power and speed, stations that could be used as fortresses. You prepared for war even though you had no one to fight. We had you. Someone muttered from the back of the room. I know you hate us, Crystalline 7 said. The council was wrong to reject you. I voted against it, but I was young and nobody listened to me. But now this crisis has shown the truth. The council needs humanity. The galaxy needs humanity. We need people who understand war, who can think about tactics and strategy. We need people who remember how to survive. So now we're useful, Lisa said. Her voice could have frozen water. Now you're essential, the Vex corrected. The Devourers will reach our core worlds in 2 years. After that, they'll spread across the galaxy. Eventually, they'll reach Earth. Your quarantine won't protect you. Nothing will protect you unless someone stops them first. Lisa studied the alien captain carefully. He was telling the truth, she could see that. He was genuinely terrified. I need to talk to Earth's leaders, she said finally. But Captain, you need to understand something. If humanity decides to help, we won't be your convenient weapons. We won't be tools you use and then lock away again. We'll be equals or we'll be nothing. The emergency meeting of Earth's Unified Council happened within hours. Every major nation sent representatives. They appeared as holograms in the council chamber, their faces projected from all over the world. Director Richard Barnes called the meeting to order. Everyone has seen the information the Vex captain provided. The threat is real. These Devourers could destroy the entire galaxy. Let them destroy the council, said Ambassador Maria Torres. It's their problem, not ours. It will become our problem, argued General Connor Wright. Even if we could defend our solar system forever, what kind of life would that be? Alone while everyone else dies? The council made their choice 50 years ago, said Ambassador Chen Wei. They judged us and found us wanting. Let them suffer the consequences. The argument went on for hours. Some wanted revenge for the rejection. Others wanted to help because it was the right thing to do. Some saw an opportunity to end the quarantine. Others feared getting involved in a war that wasn't theirs. Finally, Richard Barnes called for silence. I understand wanting revenge, he said. The rejection hurt. It was wrong and unfair. But let me show you something. He activated a display showing Earth's history. Wars and conflicts filled the screen. Thousands of years of humanity fighting itself. For most of our history, we were divided. We fought endless wars over land and resources and ideas. Each group thought they were right and everyone else was wrong. The display showed the destruction of the last war, the final global conflict that nearly destroyed everything. It took almost dying to make us realize the truth. Our differences didn't matter as much as what we had in common. When we finally came together, when we chose cooperation over fighting, we achieved more in 50 years than in the previous 5,000 years. He looked at each representative. The council is making the same mistake we made. They see differences as threats instead of strengths. They forgot that diversity makes you stronger, not weaker. You want us to help them, Maria said. After everything they did. I want us to be better than they were, Richard replied. Not because they deserve it, but because we do. If we choose revenge and isolation, we become exactly what they feared we were. The debate continued, but the tone had shifted. 3 hours later, they voted. It was close, but the decision was made. Earth would help the council fight the Devourers, but there would be conditions. Lisa Morgan delivered humanity's demands personally. She stood in Unity Station's main conference room with representatives from every Earth nation watching. Crystalline 7 floated on the other side of the table, his crystal body dim with exhaustion and worry. These are our terms, Lisa said, her voice clear and firm. Humanity will send ships and soldiers to help defend council space. But in return, the quarantine ends immediately. Human ships can go anywhere in the galaxy. No restrictions. Crystalline 7's colors shifted nervously, but Lisa continued. Second, humanity gets full membership in the council. Not probationary, not temporary. Full membership with voting rights equal to every other species. The council will never agree, the Vex captain started to say, but Lisa held up her hand. Third, all council technology and scientific knowledge will be shared with Earth. No secrets, no restrictions. If we're going to be allies, we share everything. She leaned forward, her eyes hard. Those are our conditions, Captain. Take them or leave them. The council fears you, Crystalline 7 said quietly. They're terrified of giving you access to advanced technology. They think you'll use it to build weapons to become more dangerous than you already are. Good, said General Wright from his position near the wall. Fear creates respect. Respect creates equality. They should have learned that 50 years ago. If the council refuses, Lisa added, then they can face the devourers alone. We won't lift a finger to help them. And when the devourers finish with the council and come for Earth, we'll fight them ourselves. We've survived worse than this. Crystalline Seven's entire body pulsed through a series of colors that the humans had learned meant deep distress. You would really let the galaxy burn? The council let us burn, Lisa replied coldly. They locked us away and didn't care what happened to us. Turnabout is fair play, Captain. Either we're equals or we're enemies. There's no middle ground anymore. The Vex captain left Unity Station carrying Earth's ultimatum. Every human in the command center knew this was a gamble. If the council refused, humanity would face the devourers alone eventually. But everyone was tired of being treated like dangerous children. If they were going to risk their lives fighting someone else's war, they would do it as equals. The council's response came 1 week later. They accepted every single condition. Lisa read the message 3 times, barely believing it. The quarantine was over. Humanity had full council membership. All technology would be shared. Everything they had demanded, the council had agreed to. They must be desperate, Peter said, reading over her shoulder. Desperation makes people reasonable, Lisa replied. Fear of extinction has a way of changing perspectives. Within days, council databases began downloading to Earth's computers. Thousands of years of accumulated knowledge flooded into human research centers. Scientists worked around the clock trying to absorb information about physics, medicine, engineering, and 100 other fields. But there was no time to simply study. The devourers were still out there, still destroying worlds. Earth needed to prepare for war. The human fleet grew rapidly. Shipyards that had been building exploration vessels switched to military production. The designs combined human innovation with newly acquired council technology. The results were ships unlike anything either humans or aliens had built before. 6 months after the council accepted Earth's terms, Commander Jake Sullivan stood on the bridge of humanity's newest warship. The ship was called the Defiant, a name chosen to remind everyone what humanity had overcome. Around the Defiant, 29 other human warships held formation as they traveled through hyperspace toward their first real battle. Jake was 40 years old, a career military officer who had spent his entire adult life preparing for a war that never came. Until now, he studied the tactical displays showing their destination, a council world called Proxima Tertius that was under attack by devourer forces. Coming out of hyperspace in 30 seconds, announced Lieutenant Kate Brennan from the tactical station. She was young but experienced, trained in the advanced combat simulators Earth had built over the past decades. All ships report ready, added Lieutenant Brandon Pierce, Jake's second in command. The Defiant dropped out of hyperspace, and the view screens immediately showed chaos. Proxima Tertius was a beautiful blue-green world that reminded Jake of Earth. But around it, a battle raged. 37 devourer ships swarmed around the planet like angry wasps. They were horrible to look at. Organic and mechanical parts fused together in ways that seemed wrong. Pulsing red lights covered their hulls, and they moved with a predatory grace that made Jake's skin crawl. Council ships tried to defend the planet. Orbital platforms fired massive weapons at the devourers, but their shields absorbed the blasts easily. 14 council warships fought desperately to protect evacuation corridors where civilian ships fled the surface. The council ships are losing, Kate reported. The devourers are adapting to their weapons. Every time the council fires, the devourers analyze it and adjust their defenses. Jake watched as a devourer vessel tore through a council destroyer with focused energy beams. The council ship's powerful shields collapsed like paper. They're learning and adapting, Jake said thoughtfully. That's why the council can't beat them. The council uses standard tactics, predictable patterns. The devourers study those patterns and counter them. What do we do? Brandon asked. Jake smiled, but there was no humor in it. We give them something they can't predict. We do what humans do best. He opened a channel to all 30 human ships. All vessels, this is Commander Sullivan. Forget everything you learned about formation flying and coordinated attacks. I want chaos. I want every ship doing something different. Different speeds, different approach angles, different weapons. Keep changing, keep adapting. Don't let them figure out what we're going to do next. That's going to be messy, Brandon observed. Exactly. The Devourers are built to analyze and counter patterns, so we don't give them patterns. We give them chaos they can't predict or prepare for. Kate looked worried. The Council ships won't understand what we're doing. They might think we're panicking. Let them think what they want. Once they see it working, they'll figure it out. The human fleet broke formation. Each ship accelerated on a completely different vector toward the Devourer swarm. There was no coordination, no careful planning. It looked like madness. The Defiant dove straight through the middle of the Devourer formation. Its railguns fired solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds. The Devourer's shields, designed to stop energy weapons, did nothing against simple kinetic impacts. Chunks of organic hull tore away as the projectiles hit. But before the Devourers could adapt their shields, the Defiant switched to plasma torpedoes, then to laser arrays, then back to railguns but firing from a different angle with a different firing pattern. The ship twisted and turned, never doing the same thing twice. Around the Defiant, the rest of the human fleet did the same. Each ship attacked differently, one moment charging straight at a Devourer, the next moment pulling away to fire from maximum range. Weapons constantly changed. Tactics constantly shifted. The Devourers tried to adapt, but there was nothing consistent to adapt to. Every time they adjusted their defenses for one type of attack, the humans switched to something else. Their organic computers designed to recognize and counter patterns found only chaos. Council ships are joining the attack, Kate reported. They're copying our tactics. On the displays, Jake watched Council vessels abandon their defensive formations. They began attacking aggressively, constantly changing their approach just like the human ships. They were learning. The battle lasted 6 hours. It was brutal and exhausting. Ships on both sides took heavy damage. 9 human vessels were destroyed completely, their crews lost. Another 20 were badly damaged and barely functional. But when the last Devourer ship finally retreated, limping away into hyperspace, the combined human and Council fleet had won. Jake stood in the Defiant's conference room later that day. His ship was damaged but still functional. On the holographic display, Council leaders from across the galaxy stared at him. They all looked shaken. "You fight like madmen," one of them said. It was a creature that looked like a dolphin from Earth but with 6 fins. "No discipline, no order, just chaos." "Controlled chaos," Jake corrected. "Every human commander is trained to think independently, to adapt without waiting for orders. It's not efficient, but it works. You can't predict it, and you can't stop it by destroying a command center." The Council speaker appeared in the projection. Even through the hologram, Jake could see its crystal body was darker than before, stressed by the crisis. "Humanity saved Proxima Tertius today," the speaker said. "You fought with courage and skill that exceeded our expectations. The Council formally acknowledges it was wrong about your species." "Acknowledgement is nice," Jake replied, "but it doesn't win wars. What we need is full cooperation. Share your intelligence networks with us. Let human strategists work with Council military planners. Stop treating us like dangerous outsiders and start treating us like the allies you need." There was a long pause. The Council members looked at each other, having silent conversations through channels humans couldn't access. Finally, the speaker responded. "It will be done." The war had been going on for 8 months now. Commander Jake Sullivan stood in the Defiant's war room, studying a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy that floated in the air before him. Red markers showed Devourer positions. Blue markers showed Council and human forces. There was far too much red. "Another colony lost," reported Kate Brennan, now promoted to full lieutenant commander. "Talus 4. 3 billion dead before the evacuation could complete." Jake closed his eyes briefly. 3 billion. The number was too large to truly comprehend. But he had seen enough footage from Devourer attacks to know what those numbers meant. Entire cities consumed, populations harvested for whatever horrible purpose the Devourers served. "How many ships did we lose defending it?" he asked. 4 Council cruisers, 2 human destroyers," Kate answered. "The Devourers committed 50 vessels to the attack. We were outnumbered 5-1. Jake studied the map again. The Devourers were getting smarter, learning from each battle. They no longer fell for the chaotic tactics that had won humanity's first engagement. They were adapting just like the Council had feared. But humanity was adapting too. "What's the status on Operation Backfire?" Jake asked. Brandon Pierce pulled up a new display. Engineering teams have finished installing the new weapon systems on 20 vessels. Both human and council ships. The Devourers have never seen anything like it. Jake nodded. Good, because we're about to use them. The plan was risky. Intelligence reports suggested a major Devourer fleet was gathering near the Kilos Nebula, preparing for a massive strike at Council Core worlds. The fleet numbered over 200 ships, the largest concentration of Devourer forces anyone had seen. The Council wanted to prepare defenses, to fortify their central worlds, and wait for the attack. But Jake had convinced them to try something different. Something very human. They would attack first. Are you insane? Council Admiral Velthar had demanded when Jake first proposed the idea. The Admiral was a tall being covered in blue scales, with 4 arms that he waved dramatically when angry. We'll be outnumbered 10-1. Exactly, Jake had replied. They won't expect it. The Council always waits, always defends. The Devourers know this. They've built their entire strategy around overwhelming defensive positions. But what if there are no defensive positions? What if we hit them while they're gathered before they can spread out? It's suicide, Velthar had insisted. It's war, Jake had countered. And in war, the side that's predictable is the side that loses. We need to do something they can't predict. Now, 3 weeks later, Jake commanded a strike force of 60 ships, 30 human vessels and 30 council ships, all volunteers who knew they might not come back. They dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kilos Nebula, and the sensors immediately lit up with target markers. 217 Devourer ships. They were arranged in a loose formation, clearly not expecting an attack. Why would they? The Council never attacked. They always waited for the enemy to come to them. All ships, this is Sullivan, Jake broadcast on the fleet-wide channel. Remember the plan. Hit hard, hit fast, and get out. We're not here to win a battle. We're here to hurt them badly enough that they think twice about attacking us. The fleet split into 3 groups. Jake led the first group straight at the Devourer center. Admiral Velthar took the second group around to the left flank. Captain Rodriguez in the Columbus led the third group to the right. The Devourers scrambled to respond. Their ships began moving into defensive formations, shields powering up, weapons charging. But they were slow, unprepared for aggression. Jake's group fired first. But these weren't normal weapons. Human engineers working with Council scientists had developed something new. Instead of trying to punch through Devourer shields with brute force, these weapons did something different. They hacked them. Streams of specialized code shot out from the human and Council ships, targeting the Devourer shield generators. The organic computers that controlled the shields tried to filter out the code, but it was too complex, too chaotic. Within seconds, shield generators began failing. Now, Jake ordered, all weapons, full power. The combined fleet opened fire on unshielded Devourer vessels. Railguns, plasma torpedoes, laser arrays, and weapons the Devourers had never encountered before. Ships that had seemed invincible suddenly exploded or went dark, their hulls torn open. But the Devourers adapted quickly. They always did. Shield generators that hadn't been hit by the hacking code modified their frequencies, becoming immune to the digital attack. Devourer weapons began firing back, powerful beams of energy that could slice through ship hulls like paper. Casualties, Kate reported grimly. 3 human ships destroyed, 5 Council ships badly damaged. Execute Phase 2, Jake ordered. The 3 groups of ships suddenly changed direction. Instead of pressing the attack, they scattered in different directions. The Devourers pursued, splitting their forces to chase the fleeing vessels. Exactly as planned. Now they're spread out, Jake said. Rodriguez, you're up. From deeper in the nebula, where they had been hiding using the gas clouds for cover, 30 more ships appeared. These were smaller, faster vessels that the Devourers hadn't detected. They hit the dispersed Devourer forces from behind, targeting engines and power systems. The battle descended into chaos, but this time it was chaos of humanity's design. Devourer ships found themselves cut off from each other, unable to coordinate, fighting individual battles against an enemy that refused to stay still or fight predictably. Jake's tactical training took over. He had studied every major battle in human history, from ancient Rome to the last war. He understood that superior numbers meant nothing if you couldn't bring them to bear effectively. Divide and conquer. Keep the enemy off balance. Never let them fight on their terms. They're trying to regroup, Brandon reported. pulling back toward the nebula's center. "Don't let them," Jake ordered. "All ships maintain pressure. Keep them separated." For 3 hours the battle raged through the nebula. The human and council forces were outnumbered, but they were faster and more coordinated. Every time the Devourers tried to form up, human ships would dart in to disrupt them. When Jake finally ordered the retreat, the strike force had lost 18 ships with nearly 3,000 crew dead. It was a terrible cost, but the Devourers had lost 73 vessels, and the rest of their fleet was scattered and damaged. The planned assault on Council Core worlds never happened. Back at Unity Station, Jake stood before the Council leadership. His uniform was dirty and torn from the battle. He had burns on his left arm where a console had exploded on the Defiance bridge. He was exhausted to his bones, but he was alive and the galaxy was still standing. "Your tactics saved billions of lives," the Council speaker said. Its crystal body glowed with colors Jake had learned meant gratitude and respect. "The Devourer fleet you engaged was meant to strike at 5 core worlds simultaneously. Our projections suggested 15 billion casualties if that attack had succeeded." Jake nodded tiredly. "We bought time. But the Devourers are still out there. This war isn't over." "No," the speaker agreed. "But for the first time since this crisis began, we have hope. Before humanity joined us, we were losing. Every battle was a defeat or a costly stalemate. Now we're winning. Slowly, but winning." Admiral Velthar stepped forward. The Council military leader had opposed Jake's plan initially, but he had fought bravely during the battle. "I owe you an apology, Commander Sullivan," Velthar said. "I called your plan suicide. I thought the Council way of warfare was the only way, but you've shown us that our way was leading to our extinction." "The Council way isn't wrong," Jake replied. "Defense has its place, but you can't win a war only by defending. Eventually, you have to take the fight to the enemy. You have to make them react to you instead of always reacting to them." Lisa Morgan, watching the meeting via hologram from Earth, spoke up. "The question is, what happens next? The Devourers are still out there in large numbers. This victory, as impressive as it is, only delayed them. Then we don't let them recover," Jake said. "We keep hitting them. Keep them off balance. We've learned their patterns now. They gather their forces slowly, building up for major strikes, so we don't give them time to gather. We hit them while they're weak and scattered." "An aggressive campaign," the speaker said thoughtfully. "The Council has not waged such a war in 3,000 years. "Then it's time to remember how," Jake replied. "Or learn from people who never forgot." The meeting continued for hours, planning the next phase of the war. As Jake listened to Council admirals and human generals debating strategy and tactics, he realized something important had changed. 50 years ago, the Council had rejected humanity because they were afraid of human aggression and violence. Now that same aggression was saving the galaxy. The Council was learning that survival sometimes required being willing to fight. And humanity was learning that fighting didn't have to mean being monsters. Together they were becoming something new. Something stronger than either could have been alone, but the real test was still coming. Intelligence reports suggested the Devourers they had encountered were just scouts. Advanced forces testing the galaxy's defenses. Somewhere out in the darkness between stars, the main Devourer fleet was gathering. And when it came, 1 year had passed since the Battle of Kalos Nebula. Lisa Morgan walked through the central hub of the Council's main station, a massive structure that served as the government center for the entire galactic civilization. Aliens of dozens of species moved through the wide corridors, going about their business, and among them, humans walked as equals. Lisa still felt a sense of wonder every time she visited. After 50 years of isolation, seeing humans casually talking with aliens felt like a dream. She passed a human scientist discussing physics with a crystalline Vex. A human child laughed as she played with an alien child that looked like a floating ball of light. These small moments meant more to Lisa than all the grand political victories. She met Crystalline 7 in an observation deck overlooking the station's docking bays. The Vex captain had become one of humanity's strongest supporters in the Council, using his influence to smooth over the rough patches in galactic integration. "Your people continue to amaze us," Crystalline 7 said, his body glowing with pleased green colors. 6 major Devourer attacks repelled in the past year. 17 colony worlds saved. And your scientists have made breakthroughs in understanding devourer technology that our researchers couldn't achieve in months of study. It helps when you share information instead of hiding it, Lisa replied, but her tone was gentle rather than bitter. When people work together honestly, amazing things happen. She watched as a human cargo ship docked alongside vessels from a dozen different species. Trade between Earth and Council worlds had exploded over the past year. Humans provided raw materials and manufactured goods. In return, they received technologies and knowledge that were advancing Earth's civilization faster than ever before. The Council is changing, Crystalline 7 said. Humanity has reminded us of things we had forgotten. We became comfortable in our peace. We stopped innovating, stopped questioning our assumptions. We had thousands of years of accumulated knowledge, but we stopped creating new knowledge. Peace is good, Lisa said, but it can make you soft if you're not careful. You start believing the universe is safe and friendly. Then something like the Devourer shows up and reminds you that the universe doesn't care about your comfort. Her tablet chimed with a message. She read it and smiled. The Horizon just finished its exploration mission beyond Council space, she said. Captain Rodriguez found 3 new intelligent species. All of them are friendly and interested in joining the Council. And you're inviting them? Crystalline 7 asked. Of course. Why wouldn't we? Every species has something unique to offer. The galaxy is better when everyone works together. The Vex captain's colors shifted to something thoughtful. What if one of these new species proves dangerous? What if they're like humanity was thought to be? Then we'll deal with it together, Lisa said firmly. The old Council made a mistake when they rejected us. They saw differences and got scared. They chose isolation and exclusion over inclusion and cooperation. We won't make that same mistake. She pulled up a holographic display showing the current state of the war against the Devourers. Red markers indicated Devourer positions, but there were far fewer than there had been a year ago. Blue markers showing human and Council forces were advancing steadily, pushing the Devourers back toward the galactic rim. We're winning, she said, but it's not over. Intelligence suggests there's a much larger Devourer force gathering beyond explored space. Everything we've fought so far has just been the advanced scouts. I know, Crystalline 7 agreed, but now we face it united. Before humanity joined us, we were losing badly. We didn't understand how to fight effectively. We didn't have the tactical flexibility that comes from your military tradition. Most importantly, we didn't have the courage to take risks. What do you mean? Lisa asked. The Council has been playing it safe for thousands of years, the Vex explained. We avoided anything that might lead to conflict. We were so afraid of war that we forgot how to be brave. But humans? You've never forgotten. You face danger directly. You take calculated risks. You understand that sometimes the safe choice is actually the most dangerous choice. Lisa thought about that. I suppose that's true. Humanity has always been willing to gamble on long shots. We went to space in fragile metal cans with primitive computers. We split the atom not knowing if it might ignite our atmosphere. We've always been willing to risk everything for potential rewards. And that courage is spreading, Crystalline 7 said. Council species are learning from human example. They're proposing bold new initiatives, taking chances they never would have considered before. The entire galactic civilization is becoming more dynamic, more innovative. Over the following months, Lisa watched as humanity's influence grew throughout Council space. Human military officers trained aliens in adaptive tactics and strategic thinking. Human engineers worked with Council scientists to create hybrid technologies that combined the best of both civilizations. Human diplomats helped negotiate disputes between Council members, bringing fresh perspectives to ancient problems. But the integration wasn't always smooth. There were tensions and misunderstandings. Some Council species resented humanity's rapid rise to prominence. Others feared that human aggression would corrupt the peaceful culture they had built. And there were humans who didn't trust the Council, who remembered the rejection and wanted revenge rather than cooperation. Lisa spent much of her time putting out these small fires, helping both sides understand each other better.
She gave speeches about the importance of unity.
She mediated disputes. She reminded everyone that their real enemy was still out there gathering strength. The crisis came suddenly. 18 months after humanity joined the Council, sensors detected a massive energy signature at the edge of explored space. It was bigger than anything they had seen before, a fleet so large it defied comprehension. The main Devourer force had finally arrived. Emergency meetings were called across the galaxy. Military forces scrambled to defensive positions. Civilian populations were evacuated from border worlds. Everyone knew this was the real fight, the battle that would decide the galaxy's future. Lisa stood in Unity Station's command center with Director Richard Barnes, General Connor Wright, and Admiral Velthar. Holographic projections showed the approaching Devourer fleet. There were thousands of ships, maybe tens of thousands. The sensor readings were so overwhelming they were difficult to parse. "We can't fight that," someone said quietly. "We have to fight it," General Wright replied. "There's no choice. If we don't stop them here, they'll consume the entire galaxy." "How do we stop something that big?" Admiral Velthar asked. For all his military training, the Vex Admiral looked shaken. Lisa studied the projections carefully. An idea was forming in her mind, crazy and desperate, but possibly their only chance. "We don't fight them ship to ship," she said slowly. "We can't win that way. But what if we don't have to?" Everyone turned to look at her. "The Devourers are organic and technological components fused together," Lisa continued. "What if there's a connection between all of them? What if they're networked somehow like a hive mind? Then hitting the network could disable the entire fleet," Richard finished, seeing where she was going. "But how do we find the network hub in a fleet that size?" "We don't find it," Lisa said. "We make them show us. We send small strike forces to attack different parts of their fleet. When they coordinate their response, we track the command signals back to their source." It was risky. It meant sending ships directly into that massive fleet with little chance of survival. But it was better than trying to fight millions of enemy ships in conventional combat. Jake Sullivan volunteered to lead the mission. So did Captain Rodriguez and a dozen other human commanders. Admiral Velthar insisted on leading a council force as well. "This is our galaxy too," the Vex Admiral said. "Humans shouldn't bear this burden alone." The strike forces departed 3 days later. Lisa watched from Unity Station as tiny blue dots representing human and council ships moved toward the vast red mass of the Devourer fleet. She felt sick with worry, knowing that many of those ships wouldn't return. For 6 hours there was no communication. The strike forces had gone dark to avoid detection. Lisa paced the command center, unable to sit still, unable to do anything but wait. Then the reports started coming in. The strike forces had engaged the Devourer fleet. They were attacking from multiple directions simultaneously, trying to force a coordinated response. Ships were being lost, but the plan was working. Council sensors were detecting command signals flowing through the Devourer network. "We've found it," the chief technical officer announced. "The network hub. It's a massive organic structure at the center of their fleet. All command signals route through it. Can we destroy it?" Richard asked. "Not with conventional weapons. The Devourers have it too well protected. We'd need to get a ship right next to it and detonate a fusion reactor. That meant suicide. Whoever flew that mission wouldn't be coming back." Jake Sullivan's voice came over the communication channel. "I'll do it. The Defiance reactor is already damaged from the fighting. It's going to fail anyway. Might as well make it count." "There has to be another way," Lisa said desperately. "There isn't," Jake replied calmly. "And even if there was, this is my choice. Tell my family." The chamber was enormous. Daniel Hayes had never seen anything so large in his entire life. The room stretched out in all directions, wider than 3 football fields put together. He stood on a small platform that floated in the air, held up by some technology he didn't understand. All around him, other platforms floated too, each one carrying an alien from a different world. Daniel wore his best uniform. The dark blue fabric was pressed and clean, every button polished until it shined. He had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. 3 years of learning alien languages, studying galactic law, and practicing his speech over and over again. This was humanity's chance to join the Galactic Council, to become part of something bigger than just Earth. The aliens around him looked like creatures from dreams. Some were tall and made of crystal that glowed with inner light. Others looked like giant insects with too many legs. There were beings made of flowing water held together by energy fields. Some looked almost human, while others were so strange that Daniel's mind struggled to understand what he was seeing. At the center of the chamber stood the council speaker. It was a being from a planet called Vex Prime, towering over everyone else. Its body was made entirely of crystal, shifting through different colors as it moved. When it spoke, its voice came through a translator that hung in the air near Daniel's platform. "We have finished reviewing your application," the speaker said. Its voice was calm and measured, like a judge reading a verdict. "The council has made its decision about humanity." Daniel's heart pounded in his chest. This was it. Everything humanity had worked for came down to this moment. "The evidence we have gathered is troubling," the speaker continued. "Your species has been unified for less than 200 years. Before that, you spent 7,000 years fighting wars against each other, constant wars, endless conflicts, generation after generation of violence." Daniel felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. "Your planet still carries the scars of terrible weapons," the speaker went on. "Weapons that could have destroyed all life on Earth. You still keep these weapons ready to use. You consume the resources of your world faster than they can be replaced. You build more weapons even now, weapons powerful enough to destroy entire planets." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Daniel could feel the other aliens staring at him, judging him and all of humanity. "The council has existed for thousands of years," the speaker said. "We have watched many civilizations rise and fall. We have learned to see the patterns, to recognize which species will survive and which will destroy themselves. Humanity shows all the signs of a species heading toward its own end." Daniel wanted to interrupt, to defend his people, but the speaker wasn't finished. "More than that, you are dangerous. Your species advances too quickly, learns too fast, builds too much. Combined with your violent nature, this makes you a threat, not just to yourselves, but to the peace and safety of the entire galaxy." The speaker's crystal body glowed brighter, shifting to a deep red color. "The Galactic Council has made its decision. Humanity's application for membership is rejected." The words hit Daniel like a physical blow. Rejected. After everything. After all the hope and preparation, they were being turned away. "Furthermore," the speaker continued, "Earth will be placed under quarantine. This is our standard protocol for dangerous species. No human ship may leave your solar system. No council ship will enter it. You will have no contact with any galactic civilization. This quarantine will remain in place until you prove you can live in peace. If that day ever comes," Daniel found his voice at last. "You're locking us away? Cutting us off completely?" "We are protecting the galaxy," the speaker replied. "You asked to join our community, but you are not ready. Perhaps you will never be ready. The patterns we see in your history suggest you will destroy yourselves long before you learn to live in peace. But without contact, without help, how are we supposed to change?" Daniel's voice rose, echoing through the vast chamber. "You're not giving us a chance to become better. You're just abandoning us." "We are giving you exactly what you need," the speaker said. Time to grow up as a species. Time to learn the lessons you should have learned long ago. If you survive the next 1,000 years without destroying yourselves, we will consider reopening contact. Until then, Earth remains in quarantine." The platform beneath Daniel's feet began to move. It floated downward, carrying him away from the council chamber. The judgment was over. There would be no debate, no appeal, no second chance. As he walked back to his ship, Daniel felt numb. He had failed. Not just himself, but all of humanity. 7 billion people back on Earth were waiting to hear the good news, waiting to learn they were part of a galactic family. Instead, he had to tell them they were being locked away like dangerous animals. The journey back to Earth took 18 hours. Daniel spent most of that time staring out the window at the stars, watching the vast network of ships and stations that humanity would never be allowed to visit. Trade routes connected hundreds of worlds. Communication beacons transmitted information across light years. Out there was knowledge, technology, and friendship that could have helped humanity become something greater. And it was all forbidden now. Daniel recorded a message for Earth's leaders. His hands shook as he spoke into the camera. "They rejected us," he said simply. "They're afraid of what we might become. They see our history of war and violence, and they've decided we're too dangerous to join them. We're being quarantined. No one comes in, no one goes out. They've locked us away in our own solar system." He paused, trying to find the right words. "They called us dangerous. They said we're heading for self-destruction. They looked at everything humanity has accomplished and saw only threats and problems. They didn't see our art, our music, our capacity for love and sacrifice. They didn't see the billions of people who just want to live in peace and explore the stars. They saw only our worst moments and judged us by our failures instead of our potential." Daniel took a deep breath. Maybe they're right to be afraid. We have done terrible things in our history. We've built weapons that could end all life on Earth. We've fought wars over land and resources and ideas. We've made mistakes that killed millions. He looked directly into the camera. But we've also learned from those mistakes. We've grown. We've changed. We unified our world and ended our wars because we understood that fighting each other was destroying us. We reached for the stars because we dreamed of something better, and now we're being punished for our past instead of being given a chance to show our future. The message ended. Daniel sent it back to Earth, then sat in the darkness of his ship, alone among the stars. When he finally reached Earth, the news had already spread. Riots broke out in major cities as people reacted to the rejection. Some were angry, wanting to build weapons and attack the council. Others fell into despair, feeling that humanity's dream of reaching the stars had died. Governments struggled to maintain order as their space programs lost all purpose and meaning. But Daniel knew something the council didn't understand. Humanity had survived worse than this. They had survived ice ages and plagues. They had survived wars that nearly destroyed their entire civilization. They had survived because humans were stubborn. They adapted. They endured. They found ways to overcome every obstacle placed in their path. The council had locked humanity away, thinking isolation would either destroy them or teach them a lesson. They were about to learn they had made a terrible mistake.